Hello. Hello and welcome to our online discussion. Dear friends, dear admirers of psychoanalysis, um, we would like uh, we would like to talk today about the worries and anxiety in time of isolation. So before we start, I would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Yana Korobko. I am a psychologist practitioner at the public psychiatric hospital in Ukraine. Also, I conduct my private practice at my own office and Skype. I graduated from the University Paris Sorbonne and University Nice Sophia Antipolis in France. I am also a holder of PhD degree. And my good friend and colleague Irina Gnatyuk.
Let me introduce myself. I'm Irina Gnatyuk. I'm a clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst. I hold a major from University of Nice, Sophia Antipolis, France, and I have been for more 10 years a psychoanalytic practice, and we would like to start to our discussion now.
Well, actually, why we decided to launch this video? The idea came based on your numerous emails and questions which were received, and you were talking about the issue which actually bothers all of us, the issue of worries and anxiety in time of constrained isolation, in times of uncertainty of future. And before we pass to your questions, which each of you would have opportunity to ask at the end of conversation, we would like to start with some introductory word. So actually, it's true, we're now limited by reality, by real danger. The danger of virus is not something subjectively imaginative. It's something which all of us are facing in reality. And in order to save our life and to avoid the risk of threatening our life, we all have to accept certain limitations. It's true, it's very difficult not to go out. Going out is a very natural desire. However, we should also know how to distinguish the desires which we can have and the desires which we cannot have and the desires which we have to renounce for good. So the desire to go out is something, if we don't accomplish it, it will not kill us. We will not die if we don't go out, if we don't follow our daily routine as we used to during certain time. However, the acceptance of certain restriction and giving up on something which we want could also bring liberation and freedom. It's to renounce from something I want, which would save my life. I would also like to give some information, some insight on the situations that I have been recently observing at my hospital. Actually, the patients of psychiatric hospitals, they are already limited in their movement, and the current situation of coronavirus has actually made their situation even more restricted. Before, the patients used to be able to go to the rehabilitation center, to go for a walk with their relatives. But now, all they have is that they're stuck in a very closed space for 24 hours, for 1 month, and maybe for the months to come. So what actually I have observed that before, in order to start the real work with the patient, we sometimes needed several sessions, several months of hearing what is actually the request of the patient. But recently, I found out that patients are so willingly sharing their inner emotions, the experience they are living through, that this closed space has actually brought about the closeness between the people and the willingness to share something which before was closed for the entire world and actually for the patient himself. And I would like also to stress on this point that while we're in a very restricted space, while we're experiencing limitations, probably sharing is also a way to go beyond those limits which we're living inside of us. So basically, expanding our personal space and allowing another person to come into cooperation with us on that space. So this is my vision of the way we can cope with the anxiety, with those borders which are weighing on us through cooperation, through sharing, which is helpful. Why we share? It's not only the person who receives the benefit, but also the person who shares the something is also liberated from certain parts which works good, for both sides. And I would like to give a word to my colleague Irina. She will speak in Russian, and I will translate it. For you.
Сегодня мы пытаемся разобраться в переживаниях, с которыми сталкиваемся в условиях изоляции.
Today we would like to discuss the topic of worries which arise in the conditions of isolation.
Это обязательные условия сегодняшних обстоятельств.
These are the necessary conditions of nowadays circumstances.
Для всех нас.
For all of us.
Это, конечно же, нас расстраивает и разочаровывает.
Of course, these restrained conditions frustrate and upset us.
И это общее чувство между нами,
and this is the feeling which we all share in common,
которые соответствуют реальности.
But they correspond to reality.
Но на сегодня то, что привлекает особое внимание с точки зрения психоанализа,
but there is a point which brings attention from the point of view of psychoanalysis.
Это вопрос тех внутренних бессознательных переживаний.
This is the question of unconscious personal inner worries,
которые появляются у многих людей,
which arise inside many people,
и не позволяют принять самоизоляцию и пережить ее.
And those fears don't allow a person to experience, to live through the isolation.
Сегодняшняя самоизоляция,
today's self-isolation,
это социальная дистанция,
means social distancing,
которая означает ограничение контактов,
which means the restriction of social contacts.
Тогда как многие проживают это,
while many people live it as
как изоляцию, сталкивающую нас с лишениями контактов,
as isolation which
с разрывами,
which bumps into social rupture, like social breakdown,
и пустотой.
Breakdown and emptiness.
Я попытаюсь ответить на ваши вопросы.
So I would try to answer your questions.
С точки зрения разделения внутренних переживаний,
from point of view of dissociation, distinguishing between the inner anxiety
и внешней реальности,
and exterior reality. So, dear friends, we are ready to read your questions. I can see some questions in Arabic asking to speak Arabic? Well, actually, we decided to launch this discussion in English because many people here who don't understand Arabic. So, if you have any questions, you can ask. Good evening. Okay, we have a question that a person is stuck in the at home and he cannot leave home because of virus. Человек находится дома, из-за вируса не может никуда выйти.
Но это общая ситуация.
Well, this is a general situation for all of us. I can read several of some emails which we received from your site, имейлы, которые приходили к нам на почту. So, yes, we have a question. My question is about certain thought pattern I'm recently experiencing. I keep thinking about death and if I'm ready to die. Вопрос о повторяющейся мысли о смерти и готовности умереть. I think we can answer the question of about the death. Well, let me start. Actually, you're talking about the anxiety of death. That this situation has confronted you. This situation of isolation made the deepest fear which is in you to wake up and face your own inner fear, which has always been with you. It's not the situation of coronavirus, which has brought about the fear of death inside you, but the fear of death, the thoughts of death have always been with you, and they are just becoming stronger on the background of coronavirus. At the same time, I'm questioning every big decision I ever made in my life, like my career as an architect. I don't feel like I want to continue on being an architect. Okay. At the same time, I'm a research master student in architecture school. Quit working on my thesis since February. I'm not afraid of death. I just feel like I want to start my life over with more daring attitude without being afraid of what others think of me. Now I just want to go back to finish my thesis, but it feels so difficult. Can you help me?
Давай, переведи.
So let me translate for my colleague. Вопрос в том, что человек не боится смерти, но он студент архитектуры, он учится на архитектора, и любое большое решение, которое он принимает в жизни, он всегда его ставит под вопрос. В своей карьере архитектора он не хочет ее продолжать.
Карьеру?
Да, карьеру архитектора. Он хочет заново начать свою жизнь, но уже с другим подходом, не боясь того, что другие о нем подумают. Я просто хочу сейчас закончить свой тезис, докторскую диссертацию, но сложно, но с этим сложности. Можете ли вы мне помочь?
Сложности закончить?
You have difficulties to finish your thesis, right?
Да, возможно, как раз сейчас действительно вопрос смерти затрагивает людей.
It's true. Today the question of death touches many people.
И перед лицом смерти вы можете переформулировать свое желание.
And facing death, you might make another form, give another form to your desire.
Чего вы хотите на самом деле?
And realize what is actually what you want.
Следующее.
Mm-hmm.
Говори на арабском, если люди хотят что-то хотят.
Yeah,
Скажи,
you want us to speak Arabic? Okay, good. You can ask ممكن تسأل الحاجات باللغة العربية تفضل. سنناقش السؤال تفضل. So meanwhile we are waiting for another questions. We had questions about the anxiety and uncertainty of future. Question about the future is unknown. I don't know what is waiting for me after I go out from this isolation period. So what we could possibly advise, recommend to this person. Неизвестность будущего, страх по отношению к будущему, что меня ждет после того, как я выйду из этого периода изоляции.
Да, ну, возможно, вот как раз мы говорим о внутреннем страхе, потому что сейчас все находятся в неопределенности того, что будет дальше.
So responding to the email which we received about uncertainty of future, we can say that when a person is actually facing his own fear of future, it's not that this situation has brought about the fear of future, but that fear has always been with a person, and the future generally he's uncertain about that. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, so let me read also, we had an email about the family life. Actually, it's a very difficult situation for people who share the same apartment and have to spend so much of time with their partners that they find it difficult to live together for such a long period of time. And we had a question also about how to cope with this absence of private space. I don't have my private space in my own apartment. It's all full of people. So I think we can also talk about that. Вопрос о личном пространстве, о том, что в условиях вынужденной изоляции у людей нету достаточно пространства своего, они его делят с другими людьми, что вызывает дискомфорт.
Это действительно проблема.
Well, this is a question. This is an issue. It's true.
Но скорее всего, мы также говорим о внутреннем ощущении свободы пространства, свободного пространства для себя.
But here we talk about our feeling of freedom, of free space for us. Okay. So we have a question. Can you answer me, or if I mail you? I think that the question about the thoughts of starting the life over has not been answered. Вопрос касательно того, чтобы начать жизнь заново, вот считают, что мы не ответили на этот вопрос, и все-таки предлагают либо на email сбросить, поговорить. I think we can invite this person for online discussion through Skype. Dear Rima, we invite you to talk online via Skype about your question. at individual consultation, you can drop email to my email address, and we will arrange for the day and time. Good. So let us know if you have other questions, and also if you missed this live discussion, you can write your questions down in the comments, and we will answer you. And also let us know if you would like to have the same discussions in future, and which topics would interest you. Maybe there is something else to add before we finish the discussion. Мы уже будем заканчивать нашу дискуссию.
Еще один вопрос ответить.
Можем. Нет, да. Приветствие. Я думаю, те, кому будет интересно, они оставят свои вопросы еще в комментариях, кто пропустил.
Да, мы сможем ответить на них.
Тогда мы можем уже прощаться, и тогда до следующей встречи. Well, dear friends, and we would like also to thank you for joining our discussion. So be free to ask your questions and send your questions. We will gladly